You might want to watch this and see if you can catch the part where this Republican senator accidentally lets the truth slip.
You will have the votes for this package, and you will be able to identify more spending cuts by the July 4th deadline, or is this going to take longer?
Look, I'm still remain optimistic. Ron Johnson, Rick Scott, all those people, Mike Lee, and I share the same goal. On the other hand, as you mentioned, we got folks that are afraid of the small Medicaid cuts that we made already, Medicaid cuts that are going to strengthen Medicaid and save it for those who need it the most. So we're pretty far apart yet. We have 53 Republican senators. We have 53 opinions. We're trying to work through all that. I've been real impressed with John Thune and Mike Crapo's ability to bring everybody together. You know, they're leading the charge right now, so I have confidence we'll get there. But we're not done, Maria. We will need to come back and do more rescissions, but also take a second and third bite of this apple. Let's get the one big beautiful bill across the finish line, then let's come back and get a second and third bite.
Did you catch that part where Republican Senator Roger Marshall accidentally admits that there will be Medicaid cuts? Guess someone didn't check his inbox for the talking points this week, because everybody else in the GOP knows to never admit that the Medicaid cuts are cuts, like Josh Hawley, who tweeted, quote, "Just had a great talk with President Trump about the big beautiful bill. He said again, no Medicaid benefit cuts." Or Russ Vought, Project 2025 author and Trump's OMB director, parroting the same bullshit line.
The other reason why we're seeing some pushback is because of the Medicaid cuts that were passed by the House and that are going to go into the Senate. There was a town hall, which I'm sure you saw. Iowa Senator Joni Ernst was asked, it was pretty raucous, about the Medicaid cuts. And she responded by saying, people were saying that people are going to die. And she said, we're all going to die. But the question that she was getting from constituents were concerns about Medicaid, food stamps, and other government support programs leading to people dying and premature deaths. What do you say to those concerns?
I think they're totally ridiculous. This is AstroTurf. This bill will preserve and protect the programs, the social safety net, but it will make it much more common sense. Look, 1 out of every $5 or $6 in Medicaid is improper. We have illegal immigrants on the program. We have able-bodied working adults that don't have a work requirement that they would have in TANF or even SNAP. And those are something that's very important to institute. That's what this bill does. No one will lose coverage as a result of this bill.
That's not what Josh Hawley, who is not exactly a liberal Democrat, said. He said it's wrong to cut health care for the working poor, and that's what we're talking about here with Medicaid.
Well, we continue to work with people in the Senate as to working them through what the specifics of the bill, what it does and what it doesn't do. We'll continue to do that, and I think at the end of the day, the Senate will have a resounding vote in favor of a substantially similar bill.
See, Roger? The line is, this bill that the CBO scored as stripping healthcare away from 13.7 million Americans will actually not eliminate Medicaid from anyone. That's the line the GOP is running with here. You're not actually allowed to say the words Medicaid cuts because your job as a Republican senator is to deny reality in deference to the God King, Donald Trump. But even worse than his admission that the Republicans are indeed going to cut Medicaid is this idea that, quote, Medicaid cuts are going to strengthen Medicaid. Ah, yes, that must be how it works. The way to make something better, stronger, is for it to go away. Sometimes when I'm extra hungry, I throw my dinner in the trash because cutting my food intake is the best way to satisfy my hunger. While we're at it, let's just cut firefighters so that we can really strengthen our fire season response. Let's cut education funding to really bolster those test scores. Let's gut food assistance to really make inroads in addressing hunger. Isn't it amazing what you can accomplish when you unburden yourself from basic common sense and instead fully embrace Republican logic? In fact, Roger Marshall's disastrous TV appearance managed to get worse from there.
A lot of these senators are not really looking at the kind of growth that you're expecting or that the White House is expecting. Kevin Hassett said to expect 4%, potentially 4% growth in the second half of the year. What would trigger that kind of growth, in your view, in the second half?
Well, I think number one is just an attitude. Already back home, I'm seeing manufacturing jobs grow and grow and grow that we can't keep up with the orders, and I think that's probably because of President Trump's tariffs. I think the deregulation will add a 0.5%, maybe a 1% growth. I think those are the first steps, but it's just this general attitude that we're the start of a new economy. I think that the American consumer still drives the economy in so many ways, and I think that this tax bill alone is going to drive up growth as well. By making those Trump tax cuts permanent, it's going to give us significant growth. I think about R&D especially is going to allow this economy to grow if we're able to write all of that off each year.
My God, where do we start? First of all, the way to achieve 4% growth is attitude? I'm sorry, but what? We just need pro-growth vibes and then fate will take it from there? Dear God, these are the self-styled fiscal conservatives? What, just do a rain dance for growth and then the growth gods deliver? If you're wondering why Republicans oversee explosions of the deficit every time they take control of government, it's because this is the stupid shit they do once they have power. Pretend that all we have to do is change our attitudes and somehow the US economy will follow. But also, 4% growth? Give me a break. Republican policy has been implemented for 1 quarter, and immediately our economy contracted. We are the only country in the industrialized world whose economy is currently shrinking, and these guys are talking about 4% growth? Hell, why stop at 4? Why not just have a 10% attitude since we're untethering ourselves from reality? The truth is that while Republicans beat their chest as these fiscal conservatives, they are anything but. The last time Republicans had unified control of government, they added $7.8 trillion to the debt. They own 25% of all debt ever added to the US government. There has not been a single Republican administration in my lifetime that's created more jobs than a Democratic administration, that's had a stronger economy than a Democratic administration, or that's had lower unemployment than a Democratic administration. And this bullshit is why. It's because they don't care about the economy, they care about themselves. They so desperately want to render permanent their tax cut that they don't care what they have to say or do to get it. That's why we've got contradictory talking points all over the place about no cuts to Medicaid and then cuts to Medicaid, because they are lying. It is difficult to get your story straight when you are gaslighting the American public. That's why their talking points are all over the place. It would be a hell of a lot easier to organize if they weren't screwing over their constituents and lying to their faces about it. Meanwhile, take what you can from the nuggets of truth that you get. When Roger Marshall let slip that his party is cutting Medicaid, it's because there is no way around it. The CBO already scored this bill and revealed that 13.7 million Americans will lose access to their health care. That doesn't strengthen Medicaid, whatever the fuck that means. It hurts it. It takes it away from millions of people who rely on it to survive. That's how desperate these Republicans are to save a little bit more money in taxes. They are willing to sentence tens of millions of Americans to a death sentence if it means they can save just a little bit more cash for themselves and their wealthy donors. But hey, pro-life party, am I right? The reality is that this bill is right now in the US Senate, and with Republicans that have no other principles other than their desperation to give themselves a tax cut, it'll likely pass. Our job, though, is to make sure every single person in this country knows what it will do. It will not make Medicaid stronger. It will strip healthcare away from almost 14 million people. It will take food assistance to the tune of $300 billion away from the American people. These are Democrats and Republicans, in red states and blue states. You won't be spared because you live in a Republican district or a Republican state. In fact, you'll likely be hit harder, given the percentage of people who rely on Medicaid in those places. So call up your elected officials, show up at their town halls, and most importantly, do not forget what they are doing come elections in November. They have no qualms about lying to your face to get what they want. Show them that their actions have consequences. Before you go, if you enjoyed this content and you want to see more and support independent media, please subscribe to this channel. The subscribe button will be right here on the screen. But second, the reality is that we are now in a political environment where this administration can lean on any of the social media platforms to suppress certain voices if they don't like critical coverage. That means my longevity here is in the hands of a few tech billionaires who are already making it clear that they are willing to cater to this administration. To that end, signing up for my newsletter is a way for me to reach you directly if that ever becomes necessary. I'll put the link right here on the screen as well, so please sign up. It's free, but there's also an option to do a paid subscription if you'd like to support me and my team. I really appreciate it. Thanks so much for watching.